Welcome, Irish fans, to this week's edition of the Joe Schmidt and Jack Swarbrick Show. On today's show, we'll talk with a man who is beginning his 16th season as the head men's basketball coach at Notre Dame, Mike Brey. Coach Brey's Irish are coming off the best Notre Dame basketball season in more than 35 years, so there is a lot to talk about with Mike. But first, to start things off, here are your hosts, Notre Dame captain and starting linebacker Joe Schmidt, and Notre Dame vice president and director of athletics, Jack Swarbrick.
Captain Schmidt, good to be with you, man.
Mr. Swarbrick, what's going on?
7-1. It's a good place to be at the 8-game mark.
It is. It's still the 8-game mark. I think that's something that we need to make sure we remember. But it's exactly where we want to be right now, looking into the last 4 games here of the season. With a big game coming up this weekend at Pittsburgh, and we're looking forward to it. We're excited.
Another game you had in the bag the entire way.
Yeah, right. Seriously,
no
absolutely
drama.
No drama. There's been no questions that Showtime's scripting our games, but
I want to thank you for holding the TV audience. The ratings are great. It helps the business model to be able to say, look at these ratings.
I know. I think we go into games obviously thinking about the ratings. So we're like, how can we do this, entertain the fans for longer? But no, really, hats off to a great Temple team. They were extraordinarily well coached, and they really cared about that game. And I know that me saying they really cared sounds like, people would ask me, is that a difference? But you'd be surprised as to week in, week out, you play people, and you can actually tell that there's a quantifiable difference between the amount that people are carrying. And I think it's it starts with their offensive linemen. They knew all of our defensive players' first names, and they were addressing us by first names throughout the whole game. And it was it wasn't so much trash talk, but just little conversations that were just out of the ordinary and fun, so we had a good time with it.
Asking about family and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. They knew personal details, and you'd be at the bottom of the pile, and some guy would start asking me, "Hey Joe, what did you think about that play?" I was just laughing, so it was a good time.
Yeah, well, they certainly were, as you said. They gave as we were prepared for, as we indicated on this show last week, a really well coached, very tough team, very physical.
Oh, yeah.
And we knew we were going to play all 4 quarters.
Yeah, no, and that's they kind of embody that toughness, that Philadelphia mindset of hard working, and so they really they came to play starting with the first quarter, and we knew they were a fourth quarter team, so they're a team of veterans that had been able to come into games, get them late into the game, and then win them in the fourth quarter, and so we ended up kind of using that using their own little their own way of winning against them there, and come out with a victory at the end. Thank gosh for Will Fuller.
Well, I was going to say the script had some pretty similar elements for us, right? We're getting a little used to these, which is a big late drive culminating with a pretty remarkable throw to Will. Will made a great catch, but Deshawn dropped that right in the pipe there. There was about an 18-inch window for him to hit. And then a big defensive stop with Kavari's interception.
Yeah, that offensive drive. Everybody points to that last play, Will making a great strike down the sideline from Deshawn. But really, I look at there was a third down early in that drive that Will, it was a scramble, and Will just happened to find a way to get open. And great players do stuff like that. And Deshawn kept the play alive with his legs, found Will along the sideline for what seemed like at the time maybe just a 7-yard gain on the way to scoring a touchdown. But without that, it's fourth down, and we're probably punting the ball. So it was a huge play, and that's the one that I point to just to kind of show that's Will Fuller, him being great. But defensively, it was great as well.
Another key play on that drive is something we've been seeing in practice, which is the emergence of Alisé on the offensive end, and that was a huge play in that drive.
I know. He ran a corner route, and I feel like they just didn't cover him. I don't know if it was something our coaches had identified in scheme. But I remember looking up on because I couldn't quite see Alizé's route, over the our sideline. Obviously, I'm not the tallest guy in stature, so I'm looking at the wonderful video board that we're about to have here at Notre Dame, and Alizé's streaking, through the middle of the field unmarked. So it was a great play for Alizé. I felt good, that he's wanted to do something to help contribute to the team, and that was a huge play for us. So.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was, and The other play that I think sort of stuck out for me in the game was a reminder. We know it, but it's sort of a reminder, and maybe a first introduction for the rest of the country, that big quarterback can run.
Yeah.
when those DBs were trying to catch Deshawn on that play, they weren't gaining any distance.
No, I actually think the big guy pulled away.
Yeah.
He was rumbling, stumbling, bumbling. That was oh my gosh. I mean, I went up to Deshawn after and I was like, "What's your 40 time?" Because I swear I thought Deshawn ran like a 5.9. He looks like he wouldn't be the fastest guy, but when he actually gets into the open field, he can really move. And he pulled away from a safety and a cornerback that are playing Division I football, and then of course hit him with the fly Eagles fly, which we had to give him a lot of grief for, and hopefully he never does again. But I think after getting a 79-yard run, we can forgive him for one little mistake there at the end.
Yeah, and I'm glad the sort of origin of that little gesture got explained. His long-time passion for the Philadelphia Eagles, not the Temple Owls.
Yeah, no, we all knew it because when we got to the link the day before for our little check out the stadium, see where you're getting taped. We do that on Friday nights. Deshawn, we weren't supposed to go onto the grass. There was a guy there this was his grass, and if you went on his grass, we were getting in trouble. And Deshawn had a brand new Eagles hat that he must have just gotten from for the trip. And Deshawn, waits till the guy turns around, runs out into the end zone, puts his hat on and has like a little eagle pose and takes the picture and runs back. So needless to say, we got a little trouble with the grass guy, but Deshawn is a huge Eagles fan.
Well, I must say I feel a little bad because the QBs came up to me in practice about a week ago, and Deshawn said, "So which of us do you think is the fastest?" And, of course,
obviously,
I was saying, I'm pretty impressed with Brandon's speed.
I think he won, wasn't he like the state champion or?
And Deshawn was hurt by that, so I think now I'm feeling bad when I saw his in-game speed, but that was great.
In-game speed, that's what we'll call it, in-game speed.
That's right. Well, we go back to Pennsylvania this week.
Right.
Another really tough opponent, but one of the things that's pretty unusual, and it'd be interesting to go back and look over your entire time with us, how often we played a noon game.
Yeah, no,
it
hardly
doesn't
ever.
happen much.
No.
And so we're doing some things differently in light of that, right?
Yeah. So, one of the great parts about, being at Notre Dame is having the ability to change our schedule, closer to the game. And so we were able to switch our departure from a normal Friday departure to Thursday to kind of get our clocks, our personal clocks, set to that noontime kickoff. And so we're practicing tonight. We're getting out of here. We're getting to Pittsburgh Thursday night. We're going to wake up and do all a game day on Friday. So we're going to, a whole mock game day. We're going to do our pregame meal, all the kind of meetings we do normally before a game, and then kick off practice at 12 o'clock. And normally our Friday, it's going to be a little bit of a different Friday practice, and I think that's great. Coach Kelly's so good about understanding how best to fine-tune the team and to make sure that we're at our best when we really need to be at 12. So, and really, I think the last time we played a noon kick was the last time we were at Pitt in 2011, and I was actually there, and we did start slow, and that was a slugfest until the very end. So I think Coach is just trying to make sure we don't start slow, and he does everything he possibly can to help us get on our way there.
Yeah, I think our listeners and viewers understand this, but the reason for that dynamic is television loves to move us to evening games
right.
for a larger audience, and so we generally on road games don't know until 12 days out. We have no idea what time it is. We got the whole schedule planned. We were planning for at least 3:30, maybe we can start. We get noon. So our earlier guest from earlier in the year, Chad Klunder, has a few things to do. He's got to see if he can change the charter plane. He's got to see if the hotel can take us a day earlier. I was watching this mad scramble he was going through to try and see if he could make all the logistics work on less than a week's notice at the end of the day, and he's been able to make it happen. Yeah, no,
we really do have a great team over there, and I think I don't think Chad's alone. I know Chad's working with a bunch of great people, yourself included. And really, the best part about this, though, is that it creates extra work for Chad. And we absolutely love that over at the Goog. If there's any extra work we can create for Mr. Klunder, it's a win for us.
Well, we did it this week, that's for sure.
Yeah, we did.
Now, back to the same state, and in some ways back to a similar challenge. A very physical football team. Great defense. They're going to try and keep the ball away from you. The possession game, they wanted to come down to a few possessions, and so it's going to be a game a lot like last week.
Oh yeah, and we're familiar with this coaching staff. We know their head strength coach. He was just here, Dave Andrews, and we know Coach Narduzzi from his time at Michigan State. So we know the kind of play game that they want to play at Pittsburgh. And then if you turn on the tape, it's easy to see right from the start that they're a smash mouth football team. They love running the football. They've got a lot of good playmakers on the outside. They got one of the best receivers in the nation, and really they do a great job on both sides of the ball. Just executing a clean football game. So we have our work cut out for us, and we're really looking forward to playing. One of those big boy pads. A lot of haymakers throwing from the hip kind of games against a great Pittsburgh team. It's going to be a great time.
Well, I know you were interviewed during the week, and you reflected a view that's just sort of core to the way we approach it. It is one game at a time. We're not looking any further than Pittsburgh, but still a nice sort of recognition of the season to date when the initial CFP rankings came out this week.
Yeah, and I think the hard part for maybe a younger team would be to get lost in that, but really I think as a veteran team, we've been around for so long, and we've kind of been in this position. Last year we were 7-1 as well, and I think we were right in that conversation. I don't remember where, but really it doesn't matter at all until you're done with the season and you're ready to go into hopefully into that environment. And so right now we're focusing on Pittsburgh. We got to play a great team and continue to keep ourselves where we want to be and propel ourselves forward.
Well, I think it'll be a great weekend. I'm glad we're able to logistically get there in a time to get our body clocks right, and we'll see what happens. Let's take a break and come back with the best basketball coach in America. What do you say?
Amen. Let's do it.
All right.